cause for effect. There are outer hair cells and inner. What do you notice about their structure? When we look at the inner hair cells, nice little straight line, okay? Just hair cell after hair cell after hair cell. But then those outer hair cells are in groups, and it's 3 lines of them. Now, those 4 rows of the hair cells, it is the inner hair cells that we use for hearing. They are going to supply information to that sensory fiber of the cochlear nerve. The outer hair cells, and you do see them as being referred to as IHCs and OHCs, okay? Adjust response to frequencies. Now, that's where your textbook is going to talk to you a whole lot about that. I'm going to make it simple for you. All right? Adjust the response to frequencies. If this did not function, you would go deaf by your own voice. Have you ever done this number? Can you see me? Have you ever done this number and talked?
Yes.
And if you do that, do you find that you might actually talk a little bit lower? This is a protection mode, okay? And what it will do is it will muffle the sounds that come in so that we don't go deaf. Now, have you ever thought about how much sound you are exposed to in a day's time? You're at home. All of a sudden, worst storm ever comes through. Power gets knocked out. And we kind of go, whoa. Have you ever noticed how quiet everything is when all the power is gone? And then all of a sudden, all the power comes back on, and you're bombarded again with sound. Going deaf now is at a higher rate than it used to be. Not only is it the sound that we're exposed to that we don't even pay attention to, but we also do this number with earbuds. And I don't know why, when somebody's got their earbuds on, they think I still want to hear their music. I don't. I'm good, you know. But they'll have their music so loud, you actually still hear their music. So now, what do we have? We don't have just little earbuds anymore. You see them now walking around with the whoosh,
Beats.
the beats or the bows or whatever the case might be, okay? Because what are they doing now? They want to block out everything around them and just have that turned up sky high. Okay? This is what you're affecting. Because here's what happens with these hair cells. When that vibration traveling in the air gets funneled through that tube, through that canal, makes it to that eardrum, that creates this movement on the eardrum. If it creates a movement on the eardrum, that's going to now affect those 3 bones. And their connection allows it to do this number. So if this begins to go, okay, that's going to make this go. Now, in the structure that we have for the ear, when we get into that inner ear and we have the connection from middle to inner, we hit fluid. What makes that important?
The sound?
Not the pressure, but the sound. Okay? Because at the pool, when you're younger, Dad throws you in, friend gets thrown in, and then y'all decide to stay under the water and talk. Okay? Y'all have done that? Okay? You hear them, but it's muffled. The fluid helps to give resistance. Okay? So it helps to give resistance. And in doing that, it helps to give protection to these very delicate structures. This is called the tympanic reflex. It's a reflex action to basically help deafen or muffle or decrease the vibrations and the sound that's coming in. Like I said, without it, our own speech would make us deaf. It's also the reason that as I stand up here teaching, talking, and then I have to go and deal with these videos uploading on YouTube, and I like to make sure that it plays, and I have to hear myself, that I go, oh, God, I feel sorry for my students. Because I don't like to hear my own voice. But I'm okay hearing it when I talk. It's crazy. So,
like if someone lost their sense of sight, would it be the tympanic reflex or would it be the outer hair cells that would help compensate for that?
if they lose their hearing?
No, for their like eyesight. Like you know how if you lose one sense, your
Oh,
other
if some of the
senses
senses
become
overtake.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that it's going to come from the cells, the hair cells themselves, because that would be where the adaptation would have to occur, because that's going to be what's connected to the nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. Made me think. You know I don't like to do that anymore. So this sense of hearing, it's really interesting what actually happens with those hair cells and how we're going to get that mechanical portion into an electrical impulse that we can turn into something we make sense of. the structure is really interesting. If we can get that tympanic membrane moving, all right, get those 3 ear bones moving, get that fluid moving, all right, that we have the connection to, and that fluid begins to move, guess what it's going to move? The hair cells, okay? Now, get those hair cells moving, we begin to see that those hair cells embedded within that basilar membrane, okay, they're going to get pushed down, all right? Now, the connection that the hairs have is extremely interesting.
Do they get pushed down because of the vibration?
It's that, like, if this is the stapes pushing on my inner ear, and that begins to create that wave-like fashion in my inner ear throughout that cochlea, okay? And if we've got that structure running through it with all those little hairs, okay, the waves are going to push them down. Push the hair cells down.
The sound waves.
The fluid.
Okay.
The fluid. Because the sound that got funneled to the eardrum has now become mechanical because it now moves those 3 ear bones. And the stapes pushes against the inner ear, and that stapes meets a portion of the inner ear that has the fluid behind it. And so therefore, if it begins to push, it creates waves in the fluid. Having the waves in the fluid affect the hair cells.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Now, the hair cells, they are in a very high potassium fluid. All right? This endolymph has an electrical potential. That electrical potential, believe it or not, creates a gradient. Do you guys remember a gradient with the ions? Meaning we've got to have inflow or outflow of something, right? And they're telling us now what we've got. So, on those inner hair cells, they link together. Bending occurs, that link is connected to, ta-da, ion channels. Do you remember ion channels? What happens?
Get attached to the gates.
Gates are going to open and we get to have the stuff move in and out, right? This creates information that will move by way of that nerve fiber. So, what it does, it'll go to areas of the brain that can make sense of it. And this is what it looks like. So they're in a stair-like fashion. All right? So if you think about a shorter one, longer, longer, longest, and then they're linked all the way across the top. So if you get a bend, a push on this, you're moving that entire group. By moving that entire group and creating the pull at the tip here is where we're going to find the channels. And the ion potassium